I knew the body innately heals. It can't not.
A pocket of energy within myself.
This is for your mother, so just do this for her.
Let's figure out ways that we can actually use pleasure to come together and bring healing.
It's a modality where we go into your subconscious and change some of those limiting beliefs.
I'm Susan Marco, clinical hypnotist, and I have so many friends and people who have had big impact on my life, so I want to share them all with you. So hello everybody, Susan Marco here with Trance Talks. And as you know, this is my platform to have conversations with practitioners across many different alternative modalities about who they are, what they do, and give you a little education and opportunity to meet some people. And today I am so happy to I'm actually in person. We're not on Zoom with the little boxes. We're sitting here together. This is my friend and colleague and cohort, Cin.Hildebrand. And Cynthia, I just have to say, I have such gratitude for you right now we're sitting in Cynthia's office, which is part of our collective office, which is, you've seen me post about and share about my space, which is right next door. I wouldn't be here and we wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for this lady here. So I am just really, really grateful to you. That's just at the root of
And I can't believe how long it's been.
Yeah, we've been here
Almost 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
Maybe this month. Like, do we move in this summer? I don't know.
Yeah, but we have such a good collaborative here. And you'll meet some of the other people here down the road. But for today, I really want to introduce you to Cynthia. Cynthia is a classic homeopath or homeopathic educator. And without me getting into too much blah, blah, blah about what that is, I'm going to just really ask you, Cyn, to tell tell our audience, what is homeopathy? How did you get into it? And take it from there.
Sure. I mean, it's a question I answer many times a week, but basically homeopathy is its own science. And that being said, most people know the remedy arnica, for example. It's a really good remedy for muscular aches and pains and for trauma. But homeopathy is an infinitesimal dose of a supplement, either animal, mineral, or vegetable. Anything that you could possibly think of on the planet can be made into homeopathic remedy. A lot of flowers, a lot of plants. I like to say that the philosophy is like cures like. Man by the name of Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, many years ago, I think it was like 1850s, created this science, which is energy medicine, by experimenting on himself with different supplements. One of which I like to tell people about is arsenic. Arsenicum album is a homeopathic remedy that is amazing for traveler's diarrhea, for anxiety, for a lot of things. Every single remedy works on a mental, emotional, and physical level. That said, a bus of tourists suffering from a horrible outbreak of traveler's diarrhea, given the homeopathic remedy of arsenicum, were fine within 6 hours. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And the way that, as a classical homeopath, I choose to treat people is on a constitutional level, which means that I take a case somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it's your life history, mental, emotional things, physical things that could be disturbing you, or your dis-easement, as I say, and come up with a beginning. It's like peeling away layers of an onion to get to the essence, to where your disturbance might be. The other way to treat people is acutely. Let's say that you've had a horrible automobile accident. Arnica, again, your friend, and there are other remedies depending on physiologically or pathologically where it lies in your body. That's another way to treat people. So.
Yeah, I like that. And what always was curious to me when I first learned about homeopathy is the idea that if you went out and like took arsenic, it would cause vomiting and diarrhea.
Exactly.
Whereas in homeopathy, it has the opposite effect of what the original substance.
Right, which goes back to what I said, which is like cures like.
Yeah.
Another example of that even friends of mine that don't believe how amazing homeopathy is believe in is if you burn yourself, you can take, let's say you burn your finger in the kitchen on a hot pot. Your instinct is to immediately cool it off and run to the sink and put cold water on it. What really needs to be done is that you take your finger and put it as close to the source of what you've burned it on, and the heat of that element will pull the heat out of your finger. I swear you, it works every time.
Yeah.
Works every time.
Someone else that I knew that did some homeopathic stuff suggested running it under hot water.
Well,
I
say
I
the
like
source
your
is
idea
the
better.
source is
Yeah.
going to be right there, even though you're mad at that saucepan.
Yeah,
You go ahead and put your finger close to it and see.
So fascinating.
I know.
And, I was thinking on my way over here about my experiences and Cynthia's helped me with a few things over the years, by the way. But one of the things that came to mind is that homeopathy can be subtle, but the result can be sublime.
Yes, that makes sense. I like that. I might use that for my slogan.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's it is subtle, and people expect homeopathy to work the way that pharmaceutical might work, where you have a headache, you take an aspirin. Homeopathy can work that way. Given the right remedy, it can work pretty quick. But if you're treating somebody constitutionally, you got to give it time. And unfortunately, a lot of times I'm the last stop. People are really, really suffering. And then somebody says, why don't you try homeopathy? And then they'll come to me. That's what I have to explain to people. I had a kid the other day that was a bedwetter. I think it was more important for his parents to solve this issue with their 9-year-old than it was for him. He didn't seem to be ashamed about it or embarrassed about it, which is a keynote for me to decide which remedy, because there are over 5,000 different remedies on the planet. It's not overnight, but within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, better. It wasn't every single night, but there were less and less nights.
What are the common things that people seek you out for?
Oh boy, because
Is there such a thing?
no, I don't. I fall into patterns, kind of like where all of a sudden it'll be, I've used that remedy 3 times this week. So I will fall into a pattern like that. It might necessarily be for the same exact thing. I treat women's hormonal issues, whether it's trying to get pregnant, for example, or if it's menopause, hot flashes are a real big one. With kids, a lot of it is, ADD, or their teacher wants the kid to be calmer. There are ways to help a child that become stronger in themselves, nightmares with kids, babies that are having, colic issues. So there's not really just one thing, really. I think that people are realizing the power of homeopathy. The thing that I have problems with is that people confuse nutritional supplements with homeopathy. They go, oh yeah, my daughter does that homeopathy all the time. I'm like, really? Yeah. Okay. What does she do? Well, she took, vitamin C the other day. And you're like,
yeah, homeopathy is holistic, but they're not the same thing. Like holistic and homeopathy are 2 different.
Right. And I do like to give that support to people nutritionally, and as far as I'm concerned, there is a hierarchy with homeopathy being the deepest and the most pure way of treating people, and then there are nutritional supplements and herbs and flowers.
I like also the notion of having homeopathy for children is amazing, because children, like, we don't want to start giving our kids all these chemicals, and it's like, I'm sure you see a lot of kids.
Well, I do, and unfortunately a lot of them have already gotten all the chemicals, sometimes because we're in a world where there are a lot of vaccines. That said, I can help if a child is having a reaction to a vaccine. I can help with that. I'm not adamant and say, don't vaccinate your kids, but there's a way that we can gently help people through that, that need their kid in a daycare or need to have the vaccinations for whatever reason. So, yeah, and like you say, kids have been on the planet a shorter amount of time, so they're not as screwed up as the rest of us. Right.
Well said.
But like, I was just thinking about, I got this woman, her name is Gladys. I can't say her last name, but she's an older woman, and unfortunately we have these staircases here, and I'm thinking about her, and I'm thinking, I think I need to make a house call, and I don't mind doing that. I will do, newborn moms, because I really believe that, it's a convalescent time for the women, and they don't need to be dragging their baby into a car and driving here. So yeah, I need to give Gladys a call. She's due here tomorrow, but she lives local, and I might as well go to her house because she was asking me about the steps. So
Yeah.
I know it's musculoskeletal, and I'll take a little bit of my kit with me so that I can have some choices of possible remedies for her. If not, I'll go back and give them. That's the other thing. When I treat somebody after an hour and a half to 2 hours, I don't necessarily know their remedy right away. It may need to be something that I percolate on and go to my books and my computer. And like I said, 5,000 different remedies. I might have it narrowed down to 50 in my head, but I want to begin the case with where I think it needs to start.
So a little bit of what you do is intuitive as well.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a homeopath, practicing homeopath for over 10 years, but I've been studying homeopathy, which I believe is a lifetime of study for 25 years. So there are so many great teachers, and a lot of them approach it in a different manner. So it's always cool to see somebody else's techniques and how they come up with a remedy. And, they always work, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And not every case of mine is 100% guaranteed relief. Some people disappear and I don't hear from them again, but like a year later they'll come back and go, hey, remember when I saw you? I'm like, oh good, I'm glad it worked for you. Now what?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing as a practitioner,
Yeah.
is like, everybody isn't always aware right away that something works for them.
Right.
Right.
Like
It'll
all of a
kind
sudden
of-
they go, oh, I did sleep better.
Yeah. It kind of drops in.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Again, it's subtle.
Yeah.
Right. And
What you do is same kind of
Yeah.
subtle thing, and that then it'll be a Thursday and they go, oh my God, I slept Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'm not quite as fearful about that thing
Yeah.
that I was afraid of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what we do together, I mean, like I just had a client that suffers from anxiety. And I think that is unfortunately the planet that we live on. And if there are people watching too much politics or news or things, that anxiety is rampant.
Yeah.
You work in a certain way with people, and so do I. I think that we complement each other.
100%.
Not everybody is comfortable doing what you do, and not everybody's comfortable doing what I recommend. But that said, we do have tools at our disposal for sure that can help people energetically.
And to that point, I think also, it's recognizing that we are multidimensional beings. We're not just a physical, we're not just a soul, we're not just a, psychological, emotional. Like we have lots of different elements to us.
Right.
And at different times, different approaches are going to be what's appropriate.
Right.
So, being able to have these kinds of things at our access, like, I feel so fortunate that we live in an area where there are so many holistic and, alternative practitioners.
Yeah, we are lucky there.
Yeah.
And especially in this office. I mean, what the magic that, Linda does in her office, and hopefully you'll see her soon, and Jen, and Carrie even,
Yeah.
So Carrie, for example, another office mate of ours, has been a client of mine since she was pregnant with her first child. She has a kit at her house. So 10 o'clock at night, she'll text me, and, she is a friend. My baby has a fever. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. And now she is really good at it. So she knows her kid's constitutional remedies. And so she'll know whether she can treat them that way or whether it's something else.
Beautiful.
But she's really, really good about that. And you appreciate that as a practitioner.
Yeah.
That somebody walks the
Yeah,
walk,
I
you know?
love that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, they can't take you home, but they can take a recording of their session
Yes,
home.
absolutely.
So people
Yeah.
can also buy a kit and educate themselves, because, I mean, that's how I started. I started because I was looking for something else for my kids. And, wow, my son's gonna be 40, and I started when he was 10. So yeah, I've been studying for 30 years.
How did you pivot? Like, what was the moment where you decided, oh, I'm going to go into this homeopathy thing?
Well, I wanted to study it so I could keep my family and my pets safe.
Beautiful.
That said, it only took a year before I realized they needed their own homeopath, and I would still treat the pets, but it was better to have my kids have the homeopath. You know, we could bounce ideas off each other, but yeah. And there happened to be a guy locally who was a homeopath who started classes, so moved to Shepherd.
And then somewhere along the line from studying, you just said one day, well, I think I can do this for
Well,
other
I had
people.
a friend that was a trauma surgeon, and she hired me as, she was a trauma surgeon, so she did that for real money, and then had a functional medicine business where she was a acupuncturist and had all different modalities there, and I was her homeopath on staff. So that was kind of the beginning of me practicing.
Wow.
Really.
Beautiful.
And with confidence. And she knew enough about homeopathy that, you know, we could bounce ideas off each other. And she was a nutritionist too, so.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how my path began.
I love that.
Yeah.
What else do people need to know? Like, how do you work with people?
Well, I call myself the Barbara Waters of homeopathy because I try to make people cry. I try to get to the base of it.
We have a stock of Kleenex in our office in the
And
back.
the truth is, I don't. I always forget to put tissues out. But I believe in order to get to a person's essence, a lot of times there's sadness, or there's anxiety, or there's discomfort there.
Mhm.
So if I can find that piece, I work a lot in adjectives. I like descriptors. So I'm always, you know, writing as they talk, and yeah, that's kind of where I'll begin, is where that crack is, or where that discomfort is. And you know, it might be somebody that is trying to, you know, conceive, but they've got issues that are holding them back that are really, really emotional issues. So that's kind of where I'll go. For example, the client that was just here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are so interesting to me. My background before I was a homeopath was I was in casting. So I
Casting
had
in film and television, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
commercials. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a superficial way of looking at people and that has served me very well in that capacity. And I use that money to support my schooling as a homeopath. Then there's the other way to look at people. So I kind of combine those two things. I can get an essence of a person when I see them. And like you said, you know, a lot of it's intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably there's always a good 10 or 20 remedies running around in my head. You know, like when I people watch at an airport or things like that, or listen to somebody in a conversation, and I'm always thinking, it's so hard because when I first started out, I would be like, oh, you need that, you know, and you can't, yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Just like at a cocktail party, you used to hypnotize people, didn't you? No, I'm kidding.
Well, you know, it is kind of natural,
Yeah.
right? And there are certain little things that I can do to put someone into a trance state.
Stop. You can?
Sure. But it's not.
Don't do it to me
This
now.
podcast is not about me. This is
Yeah.
about you.
Maybe I should have a podcast and interview you. Yeah.
Well, you know, but part of that, what is kind of dropping into my brain as we're saying that, is that, you know, we're in and out of trances all day long. And I think in homeopathy, part of what you're doing is helping people to change those trances as well, right? Like we're in the trance of believing we're sick, or we're in the trance of, you know, framing something in a certain way like I'll never get better, or like any
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
things, those limiting thoughts.
There's a stuckness.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So,
And I can hear that when people get caught in their story. When you're sitting with somebody for an hour, hour and a half, well, first of all, I take a phone call, I ask quickly what their issues are and tell them I have 5 minutes to talk. And I can tell them whether A, I need them to email me a family history, which is very good for the nuts and bolts stuff, or B, I'm just gonna float through and instinctively know what this person needs. So it depends on the person, but I really do need that first 5 minutes when they call, so I can kind of figure it out. Just like Gladys, she's not gonna be good at my steps. She's not.
yeah.
I'll go get her. I'll go treat her. But yeah, I mean, we are constantly using what gifts we have. And I'm appreciative. I mean, homeopathy has been a really good path for me. I'm not rich from it, I will tell you that, but
We don't do it for that anyway, though, right?
Yeah. There are very few rich homeopaths, honestly. Some great teachers that support themselves, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that you are really helping a lot of people, and you're doing just amazing work with your homeopathy.
Thank you.
So if somebody wants to find you, if they're interested in talking with you or working with you, how would they find you?
I do have a website called A Simpler Path, homeopathy.com. It's all one word. And I also can be reached, should we give my phone number? Oh, email, Cin.Hildebrand, Hildebrand @gmail.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes as
Oh,
well.
good.
But I want to thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
taking
This
the
went
time.
fast. I was so nervous. I didn't know if it would.
You know, it's the funniest thing. People always go, what am I going to talk about for 20 minutes or half an hour? I don't know. And as soon as we start chatting,
Yeah.
often, I've said this before, often what will happen is like we'll disconnect, I'll stop
Right.
recording, and we'll keep talking, and we'll end up having to do a part 2 because so
funny.
many more things come
Funny.
out after
Oh, that's
we kind of
great.
open the door.
That's great. Then you have a good way of getting people comfortable, and thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All
My
right.
pleasure.
Well, thanks for watching and or listening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.